Okay, fourth graders, today we're going to be learning about the Lewis and Clark expedition, and this is our learning target. I can describe the Lewis and Clark expedition. Before we learn about Lewis and Clark, here are some vocabulary words that we need to know about. The first one is expedition. Please repeat it after I say it. Expedition, your turn. Expedition, your turn. An expedition is a journey or a voyage undertaken by a group of people with a particular purpose, especially that of exploration, scientific research, or war. In this expedition, mapping and finding out about the land was important. My turn, your turn, corps. My turn, corps, your turn. A corps is a body of people engaged in a particular activity. My turn, your turn. Continental divide. Continental divide. The continental divide is this red line that it goes across the entire continent of North America, and to the water falls to the east because it's the highest peak, falls to the east and drains to the Atlantic Ocean on this side, and rivers and water runs downhill to the west on this side to the Pacific Ocean. It's also called the Great Divide. It's a mountain ridge in western North America, and it runs north and south. And yes, all the streams flow towards the Atlantic Ocean on this side and the Pacific Ocean on that side. Native or indigenous, your turn. Native or indigenous, your turn. Native or indigenous means coming from or occurring naturally in a particular place. For example, the indigenous peoples of the United States. My turn, your turn. Mandan Indians, your turn. Mandan Indians, your turn. The Mandan are a Native American tribe of the Great Plains who have lived for hundreds of years in what is now North Dakota. And Lewis and Clark spent their first winter with the Mandan Indians. So the story of Lewis and Clark happened before the Oregon Trail's first wagon train left Missouri in 1836. Lewis and Clark explored and mapped the West for future travelers. So Lewis and Clark mapped and explored before the Oregon Trail started. The Lewis and Clark expedition happened from August 31st, 1803 to September 25th, 1806. So it was for 3 years. It's also known as the Corps of Discovery, and it was the United States expedition to cross the new western part of the country after the Louisiana Purchase. The Corps of Discovery was a select group of U.S. Army and regular volunteers under the command of Captain Meriwether Lewis and his close friend, Second Lieutenant William Clark. The expedition started in St. Louis, Missouri, and made its way westward and crossed the continental divide of the Americas before reaching the Pacific coast. So you can see from this map, St. Louis, Missouri. This is the trail. The red is going west or towards the Pacific Ocean. So this is the trail they took. They stayed at Fort Mandan, I believe, for their first winter, where the Mandan Indians were very helpful. And as you can see, they went through Montana and over the Continental Divide, very highest point, through the Rocky Mountains, and all the way to Fort Clatsop in Oregon, which is what is now Oregon, to the Pacific Ocean. And here is the map as it looked back then. We had just purchased Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase from France. They owned that land. This was Spanish territory owned by Spain. This was the United States. That's how big the United States was. So you can see there's Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And here's Camp Woods, St. Louis. That's where the start of the Lewis and Clark expedition started. So we'll now watch a video about Lewis and Clark.